warm welcome to Campsie Church in Lennoxtown. You've joined us here for our fourth Bridge of Hymns programme. As well as just enjoying ourselves musically, we're trying to see how songs offered to God can be a real point of communication, almost like a negotiating table between people of different approaches. Tonight we're continuing the idea of hymns as a bridge between the generations, because for the third time we have a mother and son with us. But we've also incorporated the notion of bridging denominational differences. You see, Michael Simpson, who's the producer of these programs, is a Roman Catholic. Now, I've heard it said that whilst many priests may get the better quarters, it's ministers who can have the better half. Well, Michael isn't a priest, and he is a married man. In fact, well and truly married, you might say, having 8 children. The rest of us decided we'd like to hear from his better half, Pat, and their eldest son, Jeremy, who is at Blair's College in Aberdeen. So let's meet Pat right now.
Thank you, Graham. Listening to Graham's introduction, you may wonder who is the producer, Michael or me. In fact, all but one of our 8 children have managed to join the congregation tonight, and we're very pleased to be here. As Catholics, we've been welcomed into this Church of Scotland, and we hope that our choice of hymns will be an ecumenical bridge, as, for instance, in this first hymn familiar to all of us, which we will now continue singing, Dear Lord and Father of Mankind.
Family is Jeremy. We've already heard that you are at Blair's College in Aberdeen, Jeremy. What is Blair's?
It's a boarding school for boys between the ages of 12 and 18, staffed almost entirely by priests.
That sounds a bit unusual.
It's because the boys that go there are considering going into the priesthood at a later stage.
What was it that led you to go there, then?
I first started thinking about becoming a priest when I became an altar boy in the parish, because then I really got to know the priests and felt that I wanted to follow in their footsteps.
That following in footsteps idea is mighty important for all young Christians, I reckon. It ties in with our next hymn. Would you like to introduce it for us?
Well, the next hymn we've chosen is Do Ye Afar, a hymn with a missionary theme, which is particularly appropriate as Father McAllister, the parish priest of St. Machan's, some of whose congregation are joining us for this programme, has spent 6 years in Bauchi, a province in northern Nigeria, which is staffed and financed by the Catholics of the Archdiocese St. Andrews in Edinburgh.
series, the contrasts and views of baptism were mentioned. In the Catholic Church, after baptism, the next important step in a child's life is the day that he makes his first Holy Communion, around the age of 8 years. This year it is the turn of Damien, the youngest member of our family. It is a happy event in any parish. The girls are beautiful in white veils and dresses, and the boys are unrecognizably clean. But of course it is not an excuse for dressing up. The children have to know the deeper spiritual meaning of what they're about to undertake. And perhaps we adults, too, can learn something from them. At that age, their faith is fresh and uncluttered and trusting. Perhaps as expressed in this next hymn. Children from 2 of the local primary schools, conducted by Marion Donaghy, are going to sing Trust is in the Eyes of a Tiny Babe. That was lovely. When I first became a Catholic nearly 25 years ago, one of the most startling differences between the Catholic and Protestant churches was that in the Catholic Church the liturgy was in Latin and the congregation was involved very little in it. Since then there have been sweeping changes. The Mass means the same as it always has done, but now it is said in English, and the congregation takes a much fuller part in it. It is certainly easier to follow, and I think it is right for the Church to move in this direction. I do have some regrets, however, particularly where church music is concerned, because so much music was written for Latin, which was the language of the Church. One piece, however, which is still sung regularly, is Mozart's Ave Verum. I'm sure that many Catholics will agree that when it comes to hymn singing, our Protestant friends can teach us a lot. Mind you, Jeremy, the boys at Blair's always seem to sing with great spirit.
You were threatened with 3 nights of detention for not singing. I'm sure you'd sing with great spirit. I'm only joking, of course. No, perhaps the real reason is because we in Blair's believe that, as St. Augustine said, he who sings well is praying twice over. So, with this in mind, we'll now sing Seek Ye First the Kingdom of God.
favourite hymns is Now the Green Blade Rises, a hymn that is full of the promise of Easter and the resurrection, a promise of new life. As Christians, we sometimes think that new life just refers to some abstract, spiritual thing. But surely, every time a child comes into the world, we have a gift of new life. No matter how many children one has, there is still the same thrill over each new baby. In fact, the pleasure is increased when it is shared with his brothers and sisters. Sharing is what it is all about in a family. In our family, the three eldest are godparents to the three younger ones, which makes a special bond between them. As in most families, we have some arguments, but we have a lot of laughter too. I often smile when I think of the story of one of your sisters, Jeremy, when she was very young and popped into a neighbour's house. There she gave a detailed description of the sleeping arrangements for each member of our family, until she came to her parents. "And," said my friend, "where does Daddy sleep?" "Oh," replied my offspring, "poor Daddy hasn't got a bed. He has to share with Mummy." Although this hymn is an Easter one, it refers to new life at all times of the year.
requirements in the job of a priest?
Well, first of all, I don't think the priesthood is so much a job, but more a way of life. Actually, being part of a large family has been a great asset to me, as it's helped me to get on with other people and appreciate their views. And after all, understanding and compassion are two of the main requirements for being a priest.
It seems to me there isn't too much of a generation gap between you and your mum. Perhaps she's always kept a young approach to life because there's always been a youngster around the house. But I'm sure there must be a fair amount of discipline in your household as well. Perhaps like the more disciplined approach of your church over mine.
I don't think there's anything wrong with discipline. The Catholic Church in recent years has changed its attitude to many things. It is now far more open to new ideas. Nowadays, folk groups are a popular aspect in many churches. My own age group especially identifies with this kind of music. Here's one of my favourites, as it sums up my own feelings about vocations. Follow me.
The next hymn I have chosen is And Did Those Feet, better known by its hymn tune title of Jerusalem. Now, I must admit that when I first suggested this to my family, they all howled, "Oh, Mum, you can't have that." They were referring, of course, to the lines, "England's green and pleasant land," which may not be all that appropriate for a Scottish hymn programme. However, I stick to my guns. The words and music make a powerful combination, and I have a very special reason for choosing this hymn. It takes me back to my childhood in North Devon, when the war in Europe had just ended, and on May the 8th, my birthday, we celebrated VE Day. All the local school children were gathered around the bandstand in the park, where we gave thanks for the end of the war and sang Land of Hope and Glory and Jerusalem. My own children would probably laugh at such patriotic fervor nowadays. Anyway, let's all join in Jerusalem, and let England's land be Scotland's or Ireland's or Wales or anywhere that you find green and pleasant.